How's it going today? It's your man Cham here, and today we are at the ASR PS4 Race of Champions for Season 2. We have qualified in P11 for the race, and I'm really looking forward to this one. Basically, it's a combination of the top 11 drivers from the F2 series, which I was in, and the top 11 from the F1 series that also was running at the same time. You might also be wondering why I'm in a Mercedes rather than the Haas I was in all season long. That's because we did a random draw about 2 weeks ago to decide who's in which cars, and I got gifted the reigning World Championship car, so should go alright. So here we are. I've managed to do pretty well considering I was literally the last guy to get into the race. Like, literally, they only took 11 from each series, and I finished P11 in F2 after my pretty embarrassing finale in Brazil 2 weeks ago. But anyway, here we are. We've got 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And we've been completely thrown off as Wimpinator jumps to start, and I go from P11. We're going to go... Oh my god. My footage has completely just screwed itself over for the first corner, so... Basically, although you couldn't see it, I managed to get around Wimpinator and take the outside line, get through Contrast as well. And so I was up into P9, and then chaos in front of me as Mozza and someone else got in a crash. I couldn't quite see who it was, but I think it was one of the F1 guys because I didn't recognize the user tag. But anyway, we also picked up a 5-second stop-go penalty and all that, and then the safety car came out, which made things pretty interesting. I'd locked into a pretty good strategy at this point. I'd started on the soft tyres, where they're compulsory for use, and, well, I can go quite a long way in this race, maybe, ideally, 30 laps. And so here we were, at the end of lap 4, after a stupidly long safety car, away we went, and unfortunately we'd been shafted by the track, and so we're a little bit further behind Mozza than we wanted to be. And anyway, we were hoping we'd be able to overtake him, but instead we got stuck behind him, which really did not help us at all. I was stuck behind Mozza for a little while, but then, well, I'm the one driving, and I began to make a few mistakes, so there I was. I lost a place to Maznat, and then Entei behind me, the coordinator of the F1 division, ended up getting through me as well, as DRS got enabled for the safety car. The hemorrhaging of positions didn't stop there either, as Hold Up Man Dan managed to get through as well, putting me back down to P10, which was incredibly frustrating. I'd had such a good race to that point. And then Sir LJB as well had something to say about it, getting through me going through turn 2. It was not going well at all. In fact, I got BK behind me as well now, and hopefully I'd be able to stop the positions, but that doesn't help either. The corner cutting can be turned to strict specifically for this race, and so I got a penalty from it. Thankfully, however, I managed to shake off the guys behind me, but now I found myself stuck behind the battling Sir LJB and Hold Up Man Dan, which was exactly what I didn't want to happen. I did not want to be stuck behind cars, but I had been the whole race, which is complete pain. And then I have Viper behind me as well, which was not a good thing for me. Well, to be fair, a worse thing for me would be losing my front wing on Dan, so I had to be careful. But at the same time, I had to stop making mistakes. I'd made another mistake and lost another place to Viper. This is not going well at all, and now I'd got a very aggressive looking BK behind me. He was not going to stick around. He wanted to get that place so quick, as did Prying Stingray behind him. This race had gone from bad to worse for me. And then things got even worse, because both Stingray and BK actually managed to get past me. Although the way Stingray overtook me was pretty questionable at best by forcing me off the track, it was eventually going to happen, so I didn't put up too much of a fight, and, well, I had to give the place back anyway, so that gave BK the run necessary to get past both of us, actually. Stingray, of course, tries the dive, but he managed to stick it, and, well, I nearly got a run on BK, but it was never actually going to happen, so there we go. That's how you lose 6 places in the space of 2 laps. Not good at all. The only reprieve I even had was when Viper Z actually managed to get himself out of the race by crashing on the front straight, which was a bit odd, but hey, I'll happily take that place. Although with that being said, it wasn't very long until I was back in 14th, as Frio Shaz and his Renault actually made a move to take 13th on the first corner. It was not something I was hoping to have happen, and I don't know what he was doing there with that little braking maneuver, but oh well. I was expecting a P22 finish, and obviously that's not going to happen, but I wasn't expecting anything really out of this race. So now at this point, my strategy was to sit tight, save my tyres, and just sit behind this train, because it was pretty chaotic at this point. From here on, I was really just in a race on my own, except for a few times where other cars on different strategies actually tried to get past me. Most of them did pull it off pretty quickly, but I did have a few battles in the middle with some guys like Hold Up Man Dan, but unfortunately we were still going backwards on these tyres. All we could do was just try to keep saving them, but then I nearly went full retard and crashed into Entei. Thankfully we both came out alright, and it's not worthy of an add to the crash counter. And so, after complete solitude for 8 more laps, we were here on lap 27 to 55, and it was time to get into the pits and get rid of these soft tyres and put on a set of supers, which hopefully should last to the end of the race. The only issue with the pit stop, however, is the fact that I had a 5-second penalty for the earlier misdemeanor with Wimpinator at the start line. It was not something I was happy about. It was just one of Codemaster's stupid penalties, but there's nothing I could do about it at this point, and off we went. I honestly dead set thought that I would be having a completely lonely race at this point, because, quite frankly, no one was around. Aside from 1 or 2 guys who had gone a lap down, I was literally in last place. Like, I was P16 of 18 at this point, so the only cars I'd probably end up seeing would just be people who would pit, or perhaps guys that had run into problems and crashed. That thought process didn't stay around for long actually, as James H, who was leading the race, had a rather bizarre crash. He was leading, and he went off just before the chicane, before the hairpin. Seems really odd, but I don't know. It's not my area to judge, and I was just happy that I'd be gaining another place or two. And obviously, because the safety car had come out, I'd been thrusted right back into the pack, so that went my chances of a lonely race, and in I went into a competitive midfield. And back into a points position. Other people had pit to get onto a set of tyres that would take them to the end of the race. And so here I was in P10 of 17. Pretty crazy considering that I was P16 as I got out of the pits. So we'd obviously locked into a very good strategy because of the safety car. And at this point, who knows where we could finish. And as the safety car came in, I felt a sense of optimism. I was already in the points and I didn't have to pit again. Well, I didn't plan to pit again. My teammate Niblo, however, ended up in the pits on the very first lap of the safety car, so something must have gone wrong for him. Anyway, we had a big problem. We had Andy Holden V8 who just would not obey blue flags. I don't know how he ended up in this race of champions, because he's just, I don't even know, I can't explain it. He's waited that long to let us through when he really just should have straight away. Anyway, that's kind of ruined myself and Sir LJB's chances to get to the guys in front of us, but we still had the chance to battle each other. He's a quicker driver than me on paper, so I was struggling to overtake him, but I had new tyres, so I was able to keep up, and they're also super softs compared to his softs. However, I seem to have forgot that he was a really quick driver, because I didn't actually manage to catch him, and then, well, I just kept making mistakes. The party chat was going off. I was literally screaming at everyone to shut up and let me drive, and that was the result. I'd made a mistake, and he was out. He'd bolted. And after 3 more laps, Entei behind me had actually caught up to me, and he got the move done pretty easily because of the big straight at the back of the circuit. He'd gone through, he'd taken P9 from me, and so at this point, all I could do really was just make sure that I could stem the flow of cars behind me trying to overtake. Although, to be fair, I wasn't exactly content with Entei overtaking me, so I've gone for a pretty daring move around the outside here, giving him the space as you're meant to, but unfortunately for him, he's managed to keep the place because he's got the inside line going into the corner. I've tried another one around the outside, but the same logic's applied here, and then I've run wide going into it, where rising YouTuber iContrast managed to get a front, and then off we go. There's our points chances blown. He's lost his front wing, I've lost a bit of mine. And Codemasters, hang your heads in shame. That is just terrible. No way did we even make contact there, and there's no way he would cut into me like that. There must be some sort of netcode issue. It's crazy. Hopefully F1 2017 should have fixed this. And so we were then left to fight for positions outside the points. We have Niblo behind us, who had a pretty terrible race. He'd started on pole, but then just went downhill from there. I don't know what happened, but things weren't exactly going good for him at this point, were they? I mean, to be stuck behind me on the same set of tyres must mean that he's had a pretty average race to this point. But he wasn't going to stay behind us for long, as later on lap 40, he gave us a cheeky love tap, and him and Wimpinator ended up getting through me, which really was not what I was hoping for, and, well, I didn't think I'd catch Niblo at this point, so I thought I'd just pit for some tyres, but as it so conspires, I was still able to catch up to Wimpinator in front, so I was still on for points even if I didn't pit, but honestly, I didn't think my tyres would be able to hold up. Wimpinator was lagging quite a bit too, so I did in the end manage to get a pretty nice overtake on him by going past him on the second straight of DRS, but I never knew where he was on track because he was lagging around all over the place. I mean, who knows? He could well just spawn in front of me at one point, but I've given him the room, but I've managed to take the position because I just got a much better exit. And there I was, P10. Niblo in front had actually had a bit of a crash and retired from the race, so I was promoted briefly to P9 as Wimpinator actually took the position back and he ran into the distance. I was looking at my tyre wear too much, so I was getting pretty nervous, hoping that I wouldn't get a puncture on the final lap, and so it was tearing apart my race. I mean, I could not focus on actually driving without focusing on my tyre wear. So I was still trying to fight for positions, but at this point I just selected the pit. I'd made mistake number about 14 million, and so I had no one around me, so why not just take the pits, let's go as fast as possible, and just see what happens, really. So I pit, put on a set of Ultra Softs, and away we went for 9 laps of just pure pace. However, my mechanics actually didn't fix the front wing damage that I'd suffered earlier, so I guess my chances of a fastest lap were a bit inhibited, but I guess we'll find out. My fuel was essentially marginal at this point, so I'd be able to run a few fast laps and hopefully catch up to the back of Mozza as well, because really I just wanted to take pride over him. I mean, he'd been giving me crap all race weekend about actually being faster than me in the actual race, and it hadn't subsided either during the party chat mid-race because of the fact that he had such a bad restart on both safety cars. But it soon dawned on both of us that he actually was the one who had the quicker pace, because despite my superior tyres, I hadn't actually caught up to him. But that was soon to change because he disconnected, and for some pretty interesting reason, the AO was set on easy. So I was able to catch him within 3 corners, and by the end of the main straight, I'd actually overtaken him because of the braking on the cars. The only issue I had about all of it was the fact that I didn't actually create that much of a gap to him before he actually joined back. So with just over 2 laps to go, he actually caught me again, and he was not looking to give up any position whatsoever, but he was lagging, and he lag punted me off the road in the process. So off he went into P11 as OP Magic retired from the session from 3rd place. So here we are now battling for the final point. We're not just battling for 11th, we're not fighting for pride, we're actually fighting for a point in the All-Star race. So here we are, I'm right all over him, but thankfully he's been a bit of a naughty boy. I've personally racked up 12 seconds of corner cut penalties, but he's racked up 18, so I have the leverage over him. I could end up in 10th place still. And considering I'm not actually that far away from him, it looks pretty easy to do. It could happen very easily. Although at this point in the actual lobby, I had no idea what was going on with him, and because of that, I was still fighting as hard as I could on these worn Ultra Softs. He had Super Softs that were now faster than my Ultra Softs because they'd come into their own, but he was still lagging around the place, so I couldn't exactly fight him for position. It was all just a guessing game really as we move into the final lap. I was pushing all the limits to try and actually catch him, and then some. I was bumping over the curbs, which probably put a bit dent into my competitiveness, but unfortunately I wasn't going to be able to catch him anyway, so I just sort of had to sit back and hope that he had penalties, as Maznat87 took a well-deserved race victory in this 100% race of champions. It was a pretty crazy day, and it wasn't over yet, as I was still trying to keep up with Mozza. I'd had a pretty terrible last lap, but he had 6 seconds more penalties than me, which I didn't know at this time, so I was just fighting every step of the way. And so after wrestling my car through 102 minutes of Grand Prix racing, here we were at the final corner. Unlike Brazil and ASR, we've taken the corner well, and we've come through quick enough to steal 10th off Mozza and claim the final point in the race of champions. Being literally the last guy in, this is a fantastic result for me, and so I can come out holding my head high, despite the fact that we could have been on for more points. What a fantastic way to end my F1 2016 career. I am planning to continue in ASR for its 3rd season on F1 2017, but as for what division I'll be racing in, I have literally no idea. Let's see how I go without using assists on the F1 2017 game. But for now, anyway, it's been your man Cham, thank you for watching my ASR season, and I will see you next time on F1 2017. Bring it on.